Work is changing. The way we learn, the way we work, the way we grow in our roles, it's all evolving. AI is becoming part of everyday work. But at the same time, human skills matter more than ever. So how do we actually develop people today? How do we build skills, not just knowledge? This is where we explore it. Welcome to Don't Panic, Upskill by Elvante.
In this episode, we're talking about AI and automation, what it actually means for businesses, beyond the hype. This is Episode 1, AI and Automation, explained for businesses, from hype to reality.
I think everyone has an opinion about AI. Most people think that they should start using AI and automation. So today we are going to talk about this topic because I think there are a lot of misconceptions, misunderstanding maybe about what you can do and achieve with AI and automation. So I'm Patrick from Elvante. I'm an account manager at Elvante, where we run a government-funded AI and automation practitioner course. Yvette is our sales manager, and today we have two guests, Alvi, who's our CEO at Elvante, and she knows a lot about the business side of AI, how it can be used, and also automation. And Tamas has been working in AI and automation for a few years now, and he's one of our tutors at the course. We want to have a conversation just to demystify the whole AI and automation and to show how it could be used. So, Yvette, if you could start with the first question to our guests.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Patrick. Well, I'm very curious to know if companies usually realize how much time they're actually spending on repetitive tasks and if they are trying to use AI or if they know how to use AI. I don't know if you, as someone who owns a business, what do you see?
I think within our own staff, what I see is yes, they have adapted to AI, like in prompting of AI using ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini. That is as far as they have gone, like one step questioning and answer for that. But I don't think they have understood the potential of having automation systems yet, because this is something in the unknown for them up till now. Even though we have tried introducing them to some videos and showing them the potential of it, but until they actually use it, they are not understanding that yet. But I, as a person who has explored this, understand that there is a lot of things that we could be saving on. The time that is spent doing repetitive work could be used for more productive work, more strategic work, more managerial work. But at this moment, no, not the teams are not understanding what the potential is.
And Tamas, what do you see as someone who's teaching AI and automation, and you work with a lot of different businesses? Do you also see the same thing that we mentioned?
Absolutely. I think this is one of the measurements that companies fail to measure. How much time would they save by automating, and what would be the ROI of that step? And when we do automations, we always measure the time saved first. That's our first ROI. And obviously, later on, there will be more things that we can measure. But actually, you can see in different softwares that we use for automation, you can actually set up a timer of how much that task would normally take on a manual level. And once the automation runs, it will show you how much time did that save. So you can actually see the time that you saved with that. And it can be any kind of operational task or any kind of social media or financial. It doesn't really matter. But it always has to start with mapping out the processes within a company, understanding how they work, and understanding where the time can be saved. So this would be the first step, I think.
That sounds super cool. What came to my mind is that when you start working with businesses, do they usually know what they can expect? Do they understand what automation could bring to them? Or is it like an educational process from your side?
It's always an educational process. I think the ideas and thoughts they have are from YouTube videos, shorts, TikToks, whatever they saw, like an ad or like someone talking about it. an influencer how much time they could save, but they don't really know how to map that to their exact processes, right? So they just have an idea of what would be good to automate, but they don't know how that would translate to their processes. So we always start with an audit to go through their processes to understand how they work manually. That would be interviewing leaders, interviewing CEOs, and everyone who's doing that manual work. And then we would start with a blueprint. So once we have the audit, we would map out how we would solve that. And once that is approved and then be figured out, then we would start building the first automations.
It sounds super technical and very techy. Do people actually need to have like technical backgrounds to be able to do this kind of automation?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think the workshops that we hold are really a good example that we can show people how, in natural English language, you can just tell an AI, tell an automation agent or an AI agent what you want to automate, and then it can turn out to be a process that it's working. And now it just whatever what I said can be sound like mysterious. Like, what do I mean by less telling like an AI and an agent, and it will turn out. Um, in real life, it's really simple. You just open up a chat window, an agent window that we show on our workshops, live demos, and then you can see telling the agent in plain English what you want, and then you can see the agent actually doing it, and then you have the outcome, and then you can obviously check it, make sure that it's something that you want. But it starts, and I think Avi mentioned that companies are already understanding and using prompting in terms of AI, how well we have to ask the question to get the outcome we want. And that will also save us time. And this is the same with automations and the same with agent work, that you have to be specific on what outcome you want and how you want it.
Elvi, you as a business owner who runs a company, what are the things in your day-to-day or weekly job that you want to automate or you might have already automated?
Oh, multiple areas, starting from the sales, the marketing side, where content creation, for example, we would want that to be our team will have the ideas or combine the ideas with the AI and have the post going out regularly. When the marketing, leads come in, I would want the leads to be followed up. It reduces the time that is used for calling people. If it can be automated, that would be, we haven't implemented that yet, but this is what we want to do. We want to do even the follow up of leads, the messaging system. I would want, it doesn't require any logic in that, it's something which can be repeated. So that can be easily automated according to me. Our administration side, where we have got document processing, there is no manual input required in that. That again can be automated. Like when we get students enrollment, it's a straight process, there is a logic to it. As long as the logic is followed, we can get to the same outcome. So that again, right now people are doing it, and those people's time can be used for better purpose. So that automation could be our finance systems. Our finance are right now, we have a person who sits down, pulls up reports from multiple systems, which can I can see that can be automated from different systems, and the reports can be produced. And that also means that my finance person could do something more productive. So throughout my business, every area that I look at, if something that is being repeated, I think that should be automated. So this is my perspective of the business. And I'm now that I am in the industry, I see how easy it is to automate. I think it is completely possible. So I'm onboarding my own company into the automation process.
When I talk to companies who come to us and they are interested in our AI and automation practitioner course, I feel like that they know or they feel that they should start using AI and automation, but most of the time they don't have a clear vision of what to automate. From your experience, when you have talked to other businesses, do you think they understand, or do they have usually a clear idea of how they can use it, or they are just like trying to get on the AI train?
There is a good proportion of people who are. the second category, trying to get on the AI train. They don't know yet, but they're exploring. But there are some people who are very much researched and they know what they want and say, these are the processes I want to automate. And to them, they would want to go on everything in their organization. I would say, no, do one project at a time, do one, measure its outcome, next go on to the next project, and you can integrate all of them together as well. So that would be. Then there is the other category, which is they don't know yet. They don't. It's not visible to everybody like what automation can do. So for them, it is when I talk to the businesses, then I have to tell them that, have you ever thought about this? This processes can be automated. Then they ask, oh, we don't have a technical person. I say, you don't need to have technical knowledge. If your people know the job, how they do the job already, that is all we need. They can automate it because it's literally automating their own job. So their time can be used for better things. So yeah, both kind of employers I have met. Um, one requires a different kind of information than the other.
And then, Tamash, you're not just teaching the AI and automation, but yourself doing it as well. Can you give us some examples? What are the tasks that people the most surprised about that it can be automated?
Absolutely. Also, before I do that, let me add on my 2 cents on the previous topic, because I think it's a really important point on how we roll out automations in a company in phases and in projects. And for myself, I've been doing operational projects and restructuring for the past 10 years for different companies. And I think this is also part of change management. We have to realize that this is a change in a company. So we have to roll it out in phases and add it to people's tasks and processes in phases. Because if you just roll out 10 different automations for one company at a time, they will be overwhelmed. It will not be measured, it will not be handled. And also people have to understand that the reason we're automating their task is not to replace them, but to amplify them, to find the value added tasks they can do. Because these tasks that we're automating are not tasks where value is added. It's just something that is repetitive, as I always said. So that was just my 2 cents on that topic. And for your question, what are the first things we usually automate? I think the easiest fast wins that we start with, so companies can see immediate action, are reports, briefings, meeting preparations. These are the easy ones. They are not fancy, not involving any huge AI agent work or anything that is really interesting, but they're really efficient, and we are saving a lot of time. As an example, I worked with a software development company who needed meeting preparation automations for one-on-one meetings. They had 6 different managers and they had several team members. And for preparing for those one-on-one meetings, when you do it, it doesn't feel like a lot of time, right? But in reality, you have to check the meeting notes first before the meeting. You have to prepare the coaching questions. You have to also realize what's important for the team member, where's their career heading, how is motivation going. And then you do the actual meeting. Then you write the summary of that meeting. Or if you have a meeting note taker, then you already have a summary, but then you will have to check that, right? And then again and again and again. So what we did is we built an automation where it checks your calendar, so you don't even have to remember you have a one-on-one meeting tomorrow. It's going to check your calendar, figure out the one-on-one meeting, figure out who's it with, and then pull all the information on that team member, and then write the coaching question on a set prompt that we built to write the coaching question, figure out what's important, figure out the steps, write the agenda for the meeting, and give you a reminder 24 hours before, and also for the team member so they can prepare for the meeting as well. And then you do the note taker with AI, and then it will take that transcript and then write the summary, and then that will feed into the next one-on-one meeting, right? So then it will just roll on. And with that automation, in a year, we saved close to 900 hours, which is a lot of time that can be spent on value creation in the company, right? So that would be just one example.
So here, Tomasz, you already mentioned AI agents and how much they can automate. But are there any other tools that can be used for automation? Can we talk a little bit about them? Already, that asked previously if you would need to have like a technical background to use these tools, and you mentioned you didn't have to have that technical background. But so, how do they look like? What do they do? How can you use them without a technical background?
Absolutely. So automations evolved in the last 2 years a lot. When I started automating, it was a well, it sounds contradicting, but it was a much more manual process building automations, right? Because I had to figure out the process. I had to build the individual steps in a program called NA10. I have to build the individual steps so it will come as an automation in full. And that would take me a couple of hours for a simple automation. Let's say we're doing a morning brief as an example. For me, maybe it would take 1.5 hours to write it down, figure it out, build the automation, test it, and run it. Now I can just take ChatGPT agent or Claude Cowork, for example. I can just write it down in plain English, what I want, connect my calendar, connect the tools I need, and then in about 20 minutes, taking the time that it will think, but you can just sit around and wait in that time. Um, it will create that automation that used to took me 1.5 hours, and that is still in plain English. So I think what you said is that people don't need a technical person. It's getting easier and easier to build automations. If we still talk about like really complex automations, like detecting different things, and then, for example, like a brand protection for an e-commerce company, right? To checking different posts and ad libraries to figure out if different companies using their images or materials. That's a really complex automation that will need a technical background, that will need an automation engineer to do. But for 90% of the operational automations a company will run, you can do it in plain English. You just have to know how to approach the problem. And this is, I think, what we bring in the actual program, that we help founders and team members understand how to find the problem, how to know if it's automatable, and how to actually automate it on their level in plain English.
Okay, so this problem, the program that we were mentioning already, we mentioned it a couple of times. This is the AI and automation practitioner program that runs for 1 year. So what people can expect, like, will they be able to do something already in the beginning of the course, or they would need to learn everything during this 1 year and then they would be able to use it? How does it look like in practice?
A really important question. We already are running out, or we're already running these sessions with companies, and we're actually doing live automations that they are using in day-to-day work on session number 2. So they don't have to wait a year to have an automation that saves time for them. We're doing all the time saving automations on session 2 so they can learn hands on. The goal is that they will have something that will save them time and bring ROI within sessions. And then with every session, they will improve, they will have more processes automated, and they will know how to automate processes. So once the program is done, that's not just we're going to end the program and there's no more automation in the company. Like once the program is done, they will know from that on how to find the processes and how to automate it themselves. So that's the goal of the program.
And since we are talking about the program, Avi, you are the one who selected the tutors and the mentors who will or who are working with the companies. Can you tell me a little bit about like what was the criteria? How did you select these mentors and tutors?
I think it was very difficult to find good tutors. So we luckily found Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. But it was very difficult to find people because um, the people who have done university program on AI, they are not the right kind for AI and automation. They are more machine language, that kind of trained. This is not what is required for normal business. And it's a very new sector, so it was very difficult to find, and we wanted people who had not just a qualification in it but experience in it, someone who has worked in the industry, who knows how to handle the project. So because we are not there to just give knowledge to the learners. We want to give the skills. Skills can come only if you have a skilled tutor. So we had to go out and find tutors who have got experience developing projects, and then get them to teach the learners on how to do the automations themselves. So having the previous project experiences were very important for us when we select the tutors. And the tutor should also be able to not just have the skill, be able to communicate that to the learners, to be able to train the learner. So it's a very unique skill set that we were looking for, and we luckily found our tutors.
Also, Tamas, you mentioned the return of investments that, like, for example, saving time. But obviously, I think there will be companies who also want to generate, for example, more revenue by automating. Can you also help them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it always depends on the process, and we have to realize that we can do so much on the automation side. So, as an example, if we just build an automation that will save, for example, the founders, I work a lot with founders to figure out how to save them time so they don't have to focus on running the actual business, but they can focus more on building and growing the business, right? So when we look at that, we have to figure out which are the processes that are connected to revenue generation in a business, right? So when we're talking about saving time, obviously that's a general increase in time, not a general increase in revenue. When we look at revenue generation, we look at the sales funnels. We look at the marketing funnels that will feed the sales funnels. We look at financial optimization. Can we optimize our expenses using AI and automation? Can we do a check every month or every quarter on our expense list and figure out if we overpaying for something? Can we run a competitor analysis on our vendors to make sure that we can save time? So these are the kind of automations that can save actual financial amounts if we talk about money or on that side. And on the revenue growth side, I think we are mostly focusing on scales, how to generate more inbound leads or how to do more outbound sales depending on the company. We also built, I think one of the first big projects I worked on was an outbound system where we scraped different kinds of leads on different platforms, where a company would just type in who their ICP, their ideal customer profile is. They would just type it in a form, and then the automation would trigger. So they don't have to do anything else. And then the sales lead would type in what they are targeting as of that quarter, for example. And the automation would find thousands of leads, scraping different platforms like Apollo and different platforms that do these lead generating and lead scraping. And then it would list them out in a database. It could be CRM, it could be a general Google Sheets. And then where we use AI in these scenarios is we do research on companies. So now we have a lot of leads. Now we're doing research on a company. Now we're doing research on the decision maker. Now we know what kind of services we want to sell to that lead. And then we are drafting personalized messages. And then the sales can review those messages and then we can send them out in different batches. So this would be like a sales automation idea that is I think that's a different kind of ROI than just saving money. But at the end of the day, we have to highlight that companies have to take those saved time and focus it on revenue generating attitude and actions. So that's also important to mention.
So I see already like a lot of different tasks, know what we can automate and how it can benefit the business. I'm very curious to see from both of you, how do you see AI actually changing the way that businesses operate in the future, and what would happen to the ones that do not take on automation or do not get on the AI train, as we mentioned before.
Okay, let
Elvi?
me. So I think from my organization, I'll first give you what I think of our organization will grow into. Um, I think we will have people who my staff would be able to do more things, more productive things. I will be able to take my business a lot forward because my staff time will be saved. So, for example, an administrator who might have been done just doing paper processing, I can use that person's time for more productive work. So, it is the time saving that I see as the biggest thing for my organization. And that means my staff, I can improve them. Or I think my staff also will feel a sense of achievement. It's not just they are processing paper, which we needed before, but with automation it can be done by AI. That means my staff I can progress. They can take on their next challenge in their career. And it is a satisfaction. It gives them a lot of satisfaction in doing that. And it as an organization, we feel that when our staff improves, we improve. So we will, that is what I think would be for my organization. For the organization that I speak to, I tell them that this is what you could achieve. And some people are like, oh no, I don't know about AI, something is really new, we don't know, and all that. If they are not progressing, or if they are not in with the wave of AI and automation, there will be their competitors who are going to move forward, and they will be left behind. They will still continue their business, but their competitors will be more efficient and they will go more forward than them. So that is, to my perspective, the difference. Tamas, your
Yeah,
input?
I think I look at it more on a technical and macroeconomic side on how it will affect businesses in general. And I think on the technical side, people will have to understand how AI works, but once again, not on a technical level. But they will have to understand why are we using it and how it works, how it will help us move forward, how it will help me amplify my work and be more productive. But on the other, like sales and social media will become as like, I don't know if you remember when the first like general website apps came out, like when WooCommerce or when Shopify or when these platforms launched their websites. So then when those came out and now you don't have to build custom websites, now then every website looked the same with just different colors. And this is my thought of AI. When companies start implementing it at scale, every social media post, every marketing material, and every sales outreach will look and sound the same. So I think one thing that we are focusing on right now is also teaching companies how to build their brand identity into their workflows to make sure that it will not sound like everyone else. Because I think all of us got that classic cold outreach email that was AI generated, and you just know that it's AI generated when you look at it, right? So I think this is where it's heading right now, and we will hit a point when a lot of companies will realize that this is just like not working anymore because it looks and sounds all the same, and then there's going to be another step forward. And also I think there will be a lot of new businesses coming out. So there will be new industries because of AI. There will be new businesses coming out, more entrepreneurs, more small businesses. So I think this will be a boom in many levels because those businesses will need customers, will need partners, vendors. So I think we also have to focus on that one as well. So whatever business you're running, you have to know that there's going to be more businesses and more vendors and more producers in the economy that you have to either compete with or work with. So I think this is something that we have to look at as well.
I think an important question is that, and we touched upon this, you Tamas touched upon this, is that AI is not here to replace people, but it is here to amplify them. But you also mentioned that there are some like tasks that cannot be automated. Which are those tasks or workflows or processes or things that cannot be automated as of now by AI?
Absolutely. I think what I said in general is where value is added, but this can just sound vague, right? Where is value added or how do we add value? I think right now, just because of simple legislation, general like lawmaking, general medical, general, these stuffs will not be replaced. But that's just, I think, the obvious answer to the question. Uh, on the other hand, also, I'm not sure which one of you mentioned, but you said that now the actual marketing team can come up with ideas, but they don't have to write them or post them on social media. But this is the typical value add. So what we're seeing right now with AI is it can give us ideas what to post, but it will never be close to the human creativity of ideas and producing content. And this is one kind of value that we add. Another kind of value is trust, right? Communicating with customers, with partners, with our team. That cannot be replaced by AI. You can use it to as the one-on-one meetings. We didn't build an engine that will do the one-on-one. We built something that can help the actual manager do the one-on-one. So I think the emotional intelligence and soft skills will have a much bigger value in companies because now the general admin tasks can be replaced. So I think, especially if you're a leader, managing a team, or working with partners, learning how to read people, learning how to manage emotional intelligence in different situations, and using those soft skills will be much more valuable than before. I hope you answered the question.
No, you definitely did. And it's good to hear that basically the human part is what's staying and what
Absolutely.
probably cannot be replaced by AI.
Absolutely. And I think there's going to be some, and that's not just my idea, just based on market research that I do almost weekly now because things are changing so fast. There are going to be some interesting businesses in the future. And I would bet a lot of money that there's going to be businesses who will just focus on people talking to each other.
Hmm.
Because right now we are seeing a lot of technology coming out, AI companions, and once we all reach humanoid robots or like real life automations in that sense, it's going to be like right now, there are companies where only the higher paying subscriptions you will be able to contact customer support where a human will respond. On the lower subscriptions, is just AI. So we're already seeing like now you have to pay to talk to a human. Like the other day, I had a problem with my Facebook account. It was hacked. I could not reach anyone. Right? There's no email you can send to Meta. There's no one you can talk to. You just have to figure it out yourself. So I was talking to AI how to solve it, right? But I just know because like I was used to, talking to customer service if I have a problem. And now I just can't do it. And I had that feeling that now I'm not sure if I trust Meta anymore. I know it's maybe over exaggerating, but I think you see what I mean that it is getting more and more important to connect on a human level with customers as well.
I also feel like that the mistrust of AI is growing. Like I'm pretty sure that we all seen that
Yeah.
typical video that everyone is creating now, talking to AI, like, "Hey, I want to wash my car. This is 100 meter far," and they suggest that you can go walking
Yeah.
to wash your car. But is that something real, or it's more like that we do not know yet how to actually use this tool because AI is a tool?
I think this is the car wash example, and it's a really fun video. I think this is a good example that when we see like everyone who will say to me like AI will replace us, I would just send this video to them. Right? Like, are you sure about that? Like, AI can do many great things, but it will never be able to replace a human entirely in like a high value field. I'm not saying there's not going to be positions where AI can take over 100%. There will be, but I think on a certain level where you really have a job where you add value, human value, not just administrative value, it's going to be really hard to replace. And with the conspiracies with AI, yeah, it is a dangerous field if you're doing uncontrolled use of AI and if you're not paying attention on what to do and what not to do. And this is why we include IT security and data security and these kind of information in the training as well, because people have to understand what you can and cannot share with AI and what you should and should not share with AI. I'm not sure if you saw, but there was this AI agent called OpenClaw that is going viral on the internet. Everyone was talking about it, and everyone was downloading it and just letting it roam free on their computer. But it has no limit on it. Like if you give access to everything, things will happen. And there are a lot of scenarios where these agents are being mistrusted because people are not paying attention on how to use it. So if you're just using ChatGPT, yeah, make sure that you're not giving passwords or important information to ChatGPT about yourself. But that is something that you should be responsible for, and you should educate yourself on it. Just the same as you had to be educated when email came out that, yeah, let's not send your bank account and password to someone just in email. It's the same thing, but newer technology.
One of the questions that some of the employers have asked me is, based on their experience using generative AI, they have seen that AI does hallucinate. So they have this fear that if they connect their systems to AI, would it cause error in the system? So, what I tell them is when you create the automation, you can create the automation with your knowledge base rather than going with wider internet knowledge. So, if your knowledge base is just your knowledge base, which you have fed into the system, it will not hallucinate. It will use that knowledge to make that automation. So, I have to tell them that there should not be a fear. The way you use generative AI is not the way that the automations will happen. It will use your knowledge only. If you feed the right knowledge, it will output the right knowledge. So, just wanted to add that part in.
Absolutely. And companies are using this to train their sales employees, for example. Like I've worked with um, food supplement companies selling probiotics, and their product is not easy to understand for new salespeople, right? It's technical, it's medical. You have to understand the different things about it. So it's not just like selling a t-shirt, right? So it's a little more complex. And once they had the training, they obviously still had follow-up questions once they started working. And this is where we built this small automation where we fed up all the information about the product, all the PDFs, all the documents, so everything that is about the product, but there's no internet access for the AI. So it can only answer the questions for the salespeople from that specific knowledge base. Because once it goes on the internet, maybe it will give back bad information. In a medical sense, when they are talking to pharmacies, well, you don't want to make a mistake about your product. So yeah, this is a really good example, I think.
Elvi, how would you try to convince a company who's on the defense about automations? I think we already mentioned a lot of like added value when companies start using automation, but how would you convince them if they are still not convinced?
Okay. So one of the things they say that, oh, we don't know, we are not sure about it. I said, AI will happen. You like it or not, it will come in. So, what would happen is they will start buying solutions which will be available in the market. So, for emails, they will buy, there is a software, Fixer.ai, an application that is just to put your emails, auto reply the emails, and put them into different inboxes. So, you are going to pay for the subscription for that. So, there will be solutions in the market for each of your problem. And what will happen is these businesses, if you are not ready with the automation yourself or you haven't trained your organization to automate, they will buy these solutions. Now, when you buy the solutions, what happens is, first of all, you have to pay subscription and you will pay multiple subscriptions. And eventually, the intellectual property does not belong to you. It belongs to that companies that you're paying subscriptions for. So the moment you stop the subscription, you lost the service to it. And I tell them, but if you develop that automation internally in your organization, intellectual property is yours. You're not paying subscription. So instead of paying £20 subscription for each solution that you're going to buy, have your people trained on this and create that automations yourself and have it in your system. So that is one of the things that I have done when people say that, oh, we are not sure about it. Say, you will have to adapt. At that point, your choice will be whether you want to upskill your staff to be able to do this automation or buy the solutions.
And what happens if someone wants to upskill their staff? Like, how can they do that, and what are the options that are there?
So, upskilling the staff, what I have some of the employers asking me is, so I tell them about our training program. We say that it is a AI and automation practitioner training, which is funded by the apprenticeship funding. And I tell them it can be 12 to 14 months. They will ask me, oh, can't you do it in 2 weeks? I said that our aim is not to give you just knowledge and then leave you there. Knowledge does not mean that you can automatically convert that into skills or the ability to do this automation. What we give them is mentorship, somebody who would guide them through the process. This is what I try to make the employers understand. There is a difference between training, giving the knowledge. Yeah, there are lots of short courses on the market. You can do that short courses. You might understand everything. Doesn't mean that you can implement something, or doesn't mean that when you're stuck with something, you cannot go back to the training company and say, oh, I'm stuck here. Can you help me? They will not be. But ours is taking you, not just, we will give you the knowledge. We will make sure that you get the knowledge, you practice that in your work, and you create your automations. And that way, you are going to get business solutions as well. So that is the greatest advantage. So if an employer decides that, yes, I want to do this, first thing is the employees has to be, it has to be a limited company, because the government funding dictates some rules, and one of them is they have to be a limited company and the staff has to be on PAYE, the payroll system. They have to be on the payroll system, and they should have been resident in UK for the last 3 years. There are some conditions, there are specific conditions about like visas and stuff, but we can deal, that is minority of cases, but majority is as simple as you have to have employed that person and you should be paying them on PAYE, and they should have been in UK for the last 3 years. And that is the eligibility criteria for that. So if they are eligible, then contact us and then we can enroll them on the program. And we will not just train your staff, but we will help you implement solutions for your organization. And we will train your staff in such a way that any future automations required, you will have the ability to create that automations yourself. This is what we want to achieve. We are not here to just give you knowledge and walk away. It is to train your staff and enable your whole organization for automation.
Just jumping on the eligibility criteria, it can be charities and CIC companies as well, right? Not just
Yes.
LTD.
Yeah, sorry, it cannot be just limited company, but CIC companies, as long as they are running a PAYE system.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that's clear for everyone and we are not excluding them. And Tomasz, so you are teaching. How do you teach? I'm just curious about that. How do you approach that part? Because obviously you might be one of the tutors that companies will work with.
Yeah, so I think this way of teaching, well, first makes my job easier because now people are coming here that they want to learn, right? So you're just not like what Avi said. Like if people, like everyone wanted to learn, there's a lot of YouTube videos. Like the amount of YouTube videos we have on this, like everyone would be automating everything, right? But you need help to, roll this out in a company. And what we do is we have a high level plan on what we want to deliver, but we have to tailor it for each individual in the company because everyone will be on different levels, right? In terms of AI, some will be using it for years, some will be using it for a few months, some will use Claude, some will use ChatGPT, some will use Gemini, and we want to make sure that we improve every individual. And for that, what we do on the first session, even before the first session, we have some general questions in terms of what do they use, what do they do for work, what kind of tools are they using, so I can prepare in terms of that, what tech stack we'll be using. And on the first session, we have some more knowledge sharing in terms of the basics to make sure that we start from the same place. But then we also talk about what they are using. They will share their screen. We will try out a few things even on the first session. And then I build the more detailed plan from there. But I'm trying to build only maybe one or maximum two sessions ahead. Because on every session, maybe they will bring in a new problem they have at their company, and then we'll focus on that to make sure that we build solutions. And then through those solutions, I can pass on the knowledge as well. But we're making sure that we pass the knowledge on through a solution, not just with a guide or written formula.
So it is individual, not in a cohort, not in a group session, and everyone
No,
is there, and you're
no.
just lecturing everyone.
Yeah. No, I don't think that works. I mean, to be honest, I tried courses like this, right? I bought courses on Udemy, which were just pre-recorded. I bought group courses. I tried those as well. And I say money best spent was individual mentorship and coaching. This is where I learned the most hands-on how to solve it, because everyone thinks differently, right? Maybe each one of you approach a problem differently. So now I have to understand how you approach a problem, because working with AI and automation and figuring these stuff out is a big part of it is problem solving. But each of us approach problem solving differently. So I have to understand how you think, how you look at processes, how you look at problems, and then I will pass on the knowledge based on that as best as I can. So this is why one-on-one works way better.
Also, I think with one-on-one, you cannot really hide in the group. So, if you are
Yeah.
having like a bad day, you cannot just say like, I'm not going to answer today or I'm not going to think today. You have to
Yeah.
because it's only you there.
Yeah, and also people who come to these sessions, they want to learn. Like they are so eager to just move forward that they would just want to have all 12 sessions in one day, right? To just make sure that they can build as much as they can. So it's easy. And we make sure that we provide them materials, videos, whatever we can in between sessions. So if they want to spend more time on it, they can. I can give them exercises, and that will be, depending on each individual how much time they want to spend on it. Because at the end of the day, they have to be responsible for taking the time and making sure that they want to learn it. There's so much we can do, right?
So we mentioned already that this is a program for people that are employed and they are in employment, and while they're working, they also study and learn and gain these skills. But how does that work? Like how much time they need to spend on like talking to you, or then them practicing what they learned?
Yeah. So it's 2 hours every month that they spend with me. And during those sessions, we're already doing hands-on work. They are sharing their screen, they are typing, they're using prompts, they are building automation. So they already do the work in those 2 hours. In between sessions, it's going to be up to them and the company how much time they allow or they can spend on it. And obviously up to them if they spend any free time on learning these stuff. But what we want to make sure is that everything that we want them to learn will be delivered in those 2 hours. So that's an important thing, because different peoples will have different time slots that they can do in between sessions.
And what happens when someone starts practicing what you were talking about and they get stuck? Um,
Yeah. I always
happen-
I always tell them they can send me an email if they have questions in between sessions. So it's not gonna be like if they have questions, I'm gonna answer it on the next session. Right. So it's if they have questions about anything that they are stuck with or they want more materials, just send me an email. Obviously I'm gonna answer them within 24 hours and they can move forward. So or they can send me a Loom video and I can send one back. And these are just short interactions, right? In between sessions if they want to.
Okay. Just to add to that, along with Temas, the learners also get a business tutor or assessor to train them towards the qualification as well. So they would have 2 hours with the business tutor as well. So we assume that the knowledge they get from the business tutor and the technical tutor like Tamas, they should be able to practice what they have learned. So they got the knowledge. We assume that they should be converting that into skills, and skills comes only when they practice. So we are assuming that from what they have learned, they should be practicing at least 6 to 8 hours per week in their workplace. And we would be keen to know how they have practiced as well. We don't want people to just sit in the session, listen to the tutor, and then go away. We need to make sure that they are actually using that in their workplace. And we would ask the learners to actually report back to us how did we use it each week. And we are expecting about 6 to 8 hours of practice during the week.
And that is also up to us and me in that sense to make sure that the solutions we show them are things that they are doing day to day. or week to week, right? Because if we're doing, if someone doing admin work and we're showing them a solution on how to create social media posts, well, that's not going to help, right? So we're trying to make sure to understand what they do day to day, week to week, and do solutions for that one so they actually cannot miss it during their work. So that will help to practice.
And Avi, you mentioned the words assessor and qualification, which leads to thinking that there are some ways that we would need to assess these learners, right? So, how does that work?
So this is a level 4 qualification. So the qualification is assessed in, at this moment, the information that we have, it's assessed going to be in two methods. One is the project itself, and second is the professional discussion. So the project will be assessed while you're doing the project in the course. And once the course, you complete the course, you will have a session with an external assessor coming from the awarding organization, and you will have a professional discussion. The professional discussion will be like, how did you do the project, and why did you do things a certain way? It is to make sure that you understood what you did in the project. So that will be like a conversation you will have with an assessor, asking you questions. While in the course itself, you will be asked to write. There won't be a lot of writing assessments. It is more about doing, demonstrating that you are able to do things. But there will be some part which requires writing, but it will be kept to the very minimal. Your tutor will look at what you work on. You produce your work, you submit it to your tutor. The tutor will assess it and give you feedback, and it's like sprints of improvement. So as you go through the course, you will see your own improvement through the course. And by the end of the course, you're ready for the professional discussion. After the professional discussion, you would, depending upon how you did the assessment, you would get a pass or a distinction credit. So that will be an off-call certified qualification that you would get.
And then I think another important question from the companies, since it's a government-funded course, there is a bit of paperwork. So how difficult is that? How long does that take to enroll to the course? And also what comes up all the time is like, when can they start the course?
So it is not that difficult. It goes in 3 stages. So the first stage is we need the information about the employees that you want to train. So it could be, we can send you a spreadsheet. You can fill that in and send it back to us with the details of the employees that you want to train. Once we have that, we will then send out the forms for you to sign that, yes, you want to put these people on the program. We'll send the application forms to the learners or your employees to fill in with their details in. The next stage, once that is completed, is to have a meetup with your tutor. So it is to understand what you already know, what is your current knowledge, and from there we will create your training plan and your apprenticeship contract. That will be sent out to you. You sign them, and that is almost the paperwork. Parallelly, you also will open the DAS account or the apprenticeship service account, and you would authorize us as your training provider. Once you authorize us, we put all the employees' details on that and send it back to you for approval. Once it is done, we are all done with all the paperwork, and the start will be as soon as this paperwork is done, we will allocate you the assessor, and we will set up the schedule where you can meet up with your assessor. So it will be also on your availability as well. Like, we are quite flexible. If you say that, oh, Wednesday mornings is what works for me, we'll make sure that our assessors are able to meet you on Wednesday morning, because we do understand that business has to run as usual. And this is why we do individual trainings. That means it is flexible for the employers.
And I think one of the last questions is, we mentioned that it's government funded. Usually people ask me, like, is it full funding?
So it depends on whether you are a levy employer or a non-levy employer. Levy employers means that you're already paying a levy tax. That means your employment bill will be over £3 million. That means you're already paying a tax to the government. And you can use that tax that you pay now. Before, you could have used it within 24 months to use it, but now it is only 12 months. So if you have that boat, use it now. So if they are levy customers, they don't have to contribute anything towards the training. But if you are a non-levy customer, then you pay 5% of the cost. Now, the 5% you don't have to pay upfront. You can pay something during the course. You can pay £90 per month. So the course value is £18,000, and the 5% contribution towards that is £900. So the £900 you can pay anytime during the course. It can be, you can say that 6 months down the line, I'll start paying for it. That is all right. We will agree on what is most comfortable for you. So the maximum payment that you would have to make is £900. So yeah, that is the course fee, and there is no limit on how many employees you can train on this. So this is any organization that is willing to invest in their staff and willing to improve their staff, this funding is available for them.
Do you mind if I have a follow-up question for Elvi?
Yeah.
Because I think this is a really interesting thing that have a government-funded program like this. And I'm not sure how many other countries in the European Economic Area do this. Because if I look at this as, as a UK company, what kind of competitive advantage gives me over countries where they don't have this program, so they can't teach their employees with such a low price? So is there any programs like this in the European Economic Area or something like this, or this is like really unique for UK?
I think it is unique for UK. There may be some companies which are doing it as a adult training program, but not a mentorship program. I think this is unique and this is available for everybody who is residing in England. It may not be the whole of UK, but England.
Yeah.
And um, I think this is a unique opportunity because there are a lot of training programs. Training is not the same as mentorship. It's solving your problem and giving you solutions. And this is unique here.
And I think now we can see a lot of free courses now, like workshops and courses on free course on AI, free course on automation and whatever. But I feel like most of these free courses are pre-recorded videos or like a group session when someone is talking and it's not really practical. So obviously it can give you knowledge. I'm not saying that these are not useful because you can always hear something super interesting and useful for you, but it is not the same as getting onto a longer program and having someone helping you and support you during the whole time to actually get the skill and not just the knowledge.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think this is similar than just the workshops that we hold. But at least there you can ask questions because it's not pre-recorded. So that would make more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect taster of what can we expect or just to open the door to the whole world of AI and what automation can give.
I think we discussed most of the topics and questions that we had. And by the way, the workshop that Tamás mentioned is an AI agent workshop. If anyone is interested in that, they can email us under the video. We will have like some email addresses where you can reach out to us. And also, if you get interested in the full level 4 AI and automation practitioner course, and then you can also reach out to us, and should you have any further questions, we are very happy to discuss them and then start the enrollment. Anything from anyone to add, or shall we just end the conversation here?
Nothing on my side.
Yeah, nothing on my. I think we covered almost everything. But again, as you said, like if anybody have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Perfect. Then thank you very much for your knowledge and insight into AI and automation. And then hopefully all of the viewers have gained some valuable insights as well.
In this episode, we're talking about AI and automation, what it actually means for businesses, beyond the hype. This is Episode 1, AI and Automation, Explained for Businesses, From Hype to Reality.